Welcome to part 4 of working with the Kong drum designer in Reason. This is, for what seems to be such a little device, there's actually a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and jump into this, and this may go on for a little bit, but I'm going to try to get through this and get everything covered quickly. So I'm going to hit F6 and maximize the rack. Let's drag a Kong in, and you can click the Show Drum and Effects here. We'll click down. Then this is where you choose your modules for each drum pad. Right now we've got physically modeled bass drum, snare, and then on pad 3, 4, and 8, they're all using the same drum sound. You can see in the upper left corner we've got 3. That corresponds to here. And so each of these is using the nano here. Just whenever you're clicking the cells, the module that's being used will change. Now, in order to, we have different sounds though for each of these because there's a different hit type. What that corresponds to within the NN-Nano are the hits here. You have 4 different hits available to you. If I select the first, you can see that that's named hit 1, which corresponds to the hit type here. Hit 4 is there. That's this one here. Then pad number 8 is playing hit number 3. That's this one. Now, if you would like to load a sample into a cell, one thing to note is that if we click the Browse Drum Patch folder here and say we want to load that, you can simply drag that to the pad and automatically an NN-Nano will be loaded. Whenever you're working with an audio file, we're going to be using the Nano. If you're working with a Rex file, then you're going to get the Nurse Rex. So we've dragged that sample over to our pad. You can bring your own samples in as well, and it's already brought in the Nano and loaded into hit 1. We've got hit 1 here. So everything's corresponding just like we've been talking about. Within each hit, you can also have several different layers. So if I choose Add Layer, I can then, let's scroll down, that's a bit different. Okay, see, just be sure that you've got that layer selected and then you can drag over. So now our drum pad is going to play both of those layers in the one hit. We're on hit 1. See, if I were to select hit 2, we don't have anything because hit 2 is empty. Now, this is a good way to layer your drums. It's one way. You have several different ways within Kong, but this is one way. If you're interested in layering drums, you can do it that way. You can play these separate layers by adjusting the velocity. So let's select this first one here, and you can adjust the velocity here with this bar, this horizontal bar. You've got arrows on either end. So I'll drag this top arrow down to say 50, and when you're moving these, they move pretty freely. If you'd like more precise or slow movement, just hold down the shift key on your keyboard and that will move a bit slower so you can make finer adjustments. You can also drag at the number here, the number value just below. So we're going to set that at 50. We'll click on the second layer and we'll drag the bottom corner up to say 51. So now these samples that we brought in are going to be triggered at different velocities. Now, I don't have a MIDI keyboard controller set up to my laptop, but actually it's good for this example because I want you to see visually. these pads, the lower you click, the lower the velocity will be. The higher you go, the higher velocity. So it starts at about 4, and up top is 127. So if we're starting at 4, we've set this one to be 1 through 50. So 4 is going to trigger this first one up to 50. So, and you see, then we change once we get to 50 to the second one. All the way up to 127. So if you just imagine that there's a little graph here that starts at 4 and the top is 127, we've set this layer to play 50 through 127, which starts at about here. And this other one we set to play 1 through 50. Okay, now these can also be moved left to right by just clicking and holding and dragging. You also have, I'm going to remove this layer. So to remove a layer, you just simply select it and click on Remove Layer. So we've got that, and I'm going to go ahead and set the velocity to cover the whole range. You have level control here. For that layer, you have pitch, and anytime you want to return these back to their default position, if you just Control click, and that will take you there. And these move pretty quickly, but again, if you hold down Shift, then the movement will be slower. I'm going to Control click to take that back to 0, the pitch. Now, these are not static, the hit name. So you can see hit one here. That's our number 1 hit. You can change this. And after we change it, you can see here in the hit type, we have the new name that we've put in. Now I'm going to move up 1, and let's bring in, I'm going to add another layer. Let's bring that in there. Yeah, it just doesn't like that double clicking when you have more than one layer in there. And add a layer. So one of the things that I'd like to show you is that the Alt here, if I check that, select that layer and click Alt, now this, when you click the pad, it's going to alternate between the 3 layers that you have. Now, in order for this to work, the velocities, these bars have to be spread throughout the whole velocity range. If you come in and adjust these like so, then that's not going to work. It's playing based on what I have my velocity settings. Actually, what happens is it will alternate between, if I'm playing within this velocity range, then it will alternate between these two. If I'm playing in this velocity range, it will alternate between those two. So whichever are within the same range, it will alternate between those. But if you'd like to alternate between them all, make sure that their ranges are all spread out, and then no matter where you are on the velocity range of the pad or your keyboard, then they'll all be triggered in an alternating fashion. One other thing to take note of is that you can, at any time, select a layer or hit and click the Edit Sample, and that will bring up your Edit Sample window. So that you can then come in and I'll crop that, and let's reverse it, save. Okay, and now we've got that reversed, and it's still on Alt, so I'll select that, take these off of the alternating. I'm going to select these other two and remove those. And now we're just left with the one that we edited. So at any time you can select a hit or a layer within a hit and edit that sample. If you would like to record your own sample, then you would simply click on the sample button here. You click once, and then Reason will begin recording. You just click stop, and then you're done. I unfortunately don't have an audio interface connected to my computer, so I can't show you an example, but just know that it's as easy as that. You can also click and hold the sample button, and if you click and hold, once you release, then it will stop recording. So let's just take a quick look at the hits a bit more. So I'm going to drag that in there, select another hit, drag that in, hit 3, drag that in, and 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign the bottom 4 pads all to this one module. And the way that you do that is by you select the first pad, it's already on 1, select 2, change that to 1. You see the module then changes. Select 3, we'll change that to 1. 3, you see it's on 3, 1. This can also be done quickly in the quick edit mode. You can come in and see how they're all 1 here. We could have done that. You can change them to whatever you want them to be here. But we want 1 for the bottom 4 pads because that's where we've loaded our 4 different hits. Now I'm going to hit the Q button there to close that window. And if you take note in the upper left hand corner, they're all on 1 now. The thing is, the first 3 are playing hit 1, then the bottom one is playing hit 4. So let's set it up that we play 1, this will play 2, and this will play 3. So then, see, we're going sequentially 1 through 4 of our hits. So now let's take a look at some of the parameters with the NN-Nano. I'm going to hit F3 and close the browser. We'll select this first one here. So with the full and exclusive and monophonic hits, you can toggle between these. Full is just full polyphony, so you can play any of the sounds and they're not going to cut anything off. Exclusive, this means if one hit is triggered, it will mute any other sounding hits. Each hit still has full polyphony. if it isn't muted though. So, and then monophonic, only one sound is going to play. So I'll bring the browser back up, go to my sounds, go to my field sounds here, and let's change this first hit so that we have something that's a bit longer while we're in monophonic. You see, it re-triggers it each time because it's in monophonic. Now if we're in full, then you're going to get them all. So that's the difference. Now let's change our hit to hit 2 for pad 1 and use that. So the mod wheel here, I'll F3 and close the browser and bring up my on-screen keys with F4. Now I'm hitting A on my keyboard to trigger this first one. You can set up the mod wheel so that the mod wheel adjusts the pitch or the decay. So I'm going to hit repeat and hit A on my keyboard. And let's adjust the pitch there. And then you can see the mod wheel will then adjust the pitch. Okay, this is bipolar, so if I go to the left here, and I'll control click to take that back to the default setting with decay. It's already playing the full length, so if I go to the left, then it's going to shorten it. And I'll stop that. And for the velocity, here you can use these parameters to control what effect the different velocities on your MIDI controller will have on the sound. So as we know, the velocity is lower at the bottom and it gets higher. So if I adjust the pitch here, the higher we go, the higher the pitch goes. Now this is bipolar as well, so if I switch it, now control click to take that back, decay. Again, that's already at its full length, so we'll and the level, that's obvious. We're already adjusting the level as we go up. If I'll control click to take that one back. If you turn this all the way down, then it's going to be like so. If you take this to 0, there's not going to be any adjustments at all. I'll control click and put that back. And then you've got bend. And you've got sample start. So let's hear it as it is. I'll go all the way. It just changes the start position of the sample. Control click to take it back. Now the pitch section here is a global parameter, so this is going to affect all of the samples in your NN-Nano. So let's put this back to 1. And you see how we're still in mono, so it cuts that off. If I go to full, now if we raise the pitch up, See, it adjusts the pitch for all. And then you've got a bend, a global bend control. This is another sample start here, but this is going to be global for all of them, and we won't go into that because you saw what the sample start does here. This is just a global parameter, and we reversed a layer earlier using the edit sample, so you do have that option. You also can reverse all of the samples by clicking this button here. That was kind of cool, actually. Okay, and then you've got the AMP envelope. This is a global envelope for all of the samples in the Nano, where you can adjust attack level. You've got decay here, and if you switch this to gate mode, when you're holding down a key on your MIDI controller, the decay stage will come in after you release that key. So, I think this was a long video, but I hope that you got something good out of it, and this was good for me to go over, and I'm really wanting to use this a lot more in my production. So this was great to put together, and I hope that you got some useful information. If you made it all the way to the end, hey, that's great. Thanks for watching.